Hello and welcome back to Peaceful Soul. Picture a perfectly ordinary morning in any American city. The alarm goes off, and the first thing most of us reach for is no longer an old-fashioned clock but a smartphone loaded with artificial intelligence apps. Before even getting out of bed, many people have already asked ChatGPT or another AI tool to suggest breakfast, map the commute, or draft a few work emails. In barely a decade, AI has slipped into every corner of daily life so seamlessly that we sometimes forget it was once pure science fiction. I'm a physician who has spent years studying the human brain and behavior. From neuroscience labs to technology conferences, I see the same mix of excitement and unease. Bright eyes when people talk about AI's potential. Furrowed brows when the question of long-term effects on the brain comes up. Every powerful technology reshapes not only our lifestyle but also the way our brains function, and AI is doing it faster than anything before. Think back to the early days of the internet, when people worried that easy access to Google might make us lazier thinkers. With AI, that concern has moved to a new level. We're no longer just searching for facts, we're asking machines to organize, analyze, and even make decisions for us. From drafting a simple letter to planning finances, AI can offer instant solutions. The convenience is seductive, and many people now hand over entire chains of reasoning and creativity without even noticing. In conversations with colleagues at hospitals and universities, I hear the same pattern. Medical students use AI to write clinical reports. Office workers rely on it for contracts, and journalists turn to it for data analysis. Everyone saves hours of mental effort, but they also wonder, when the brain no longer needs to remember, reason, or create as it once did, what happens to our long-term thinking skills? Recent neuroscience research offers clues. When people consistently delegate mental tasks to external tools, a phenomenon called cognitive offloading, the brain adjusts by conserving energy and forming fewer new neural connections. That doesn't make AI the villain. The real issue is how we use it. The human brain is remarkably plastic. It can reorganize itself to meet new challenges. But it will also go lazy if we continually outsource the heavy lifting. Think of the brain like a muscle. Stop challenging it and the neural pathways weaken, just as underused muscles shrink. The danger isn't AI itself, it's avoiding the deep mental processing, comparing, questioning, and organizing information that builds lasting memory and creative insight. In the next sections, we'll explore how the brain's memory, reasoning, and emotional networks respond to this technological wave. I'll share recent studies, real-world examples, and practical strategies so you can harness AI's benefits while protecting and expanding your own cognitive power. To understand why relying on artificial intelligence can reshape the way our brain works, we first need to look at the remarkable system inside our own heads. At every moment, billions of neurons are firing signals, forming a network more complex than any supercomputer ever built. Every thought, memory, and emotion begins with these tiny electrical impulses. The brain doesn't just store information, it constantly learns, adapts, and rewires itself to meet the demands of its environment. At the center of memory formation lies the hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped region deep within the temporal lobe. When we learn a new skill or encode a memory, neurons in the hippocampus create new connections. These connections are later consolidated and sent to the cortex for long-term storage. But to keep those pathways strong, the brain needs repeated processing, asking questions, reviewing, and testing itself. If information is only received passively without practice or deeper thinking, the neural links fade, much like an unused trail slowly disappearing under weeds. Instant access to AI introduces a paradox. Because the brain is wired to conserve energy, it will always choose the easiest path to reach a goal. Knowing that a chatbot can provide an answer in seconds reduces the motivation to search, analyze, and memorize on our own. Neuroscientists call this cognitive offloading, the outsourcing of mental effort to external tools. We experienced a version of this when GPS made us forget how to navigate streets. With AI, the offloading now extends far beyond spatial memory to planning, problem solving, and even creativity. Research supports these concerns. A well-known experiment at Columbia University found that when participants believed information would be stored on a computer, Hippocampal activity dropped significantly compared with when they thought they had to remember it themselves. Sparrow et al. Science. 2011. Another study published in Nature Neuroscience reported that frequent online searching can impair the formation of long-term memories even when people are exposed to more information overall. It's not just memory that's affected. The prefrontal cortex, the brain's center for planning, analysis, and decision-making, also shows reduced activation when people rely heavily on ready-made suggestions. When AI consistently provides answers, the neural circuits responsible for critical thinking are less challenged, leading to weaker focus and reasoning over time. Because the brain is highly plastic, it rewires itself based on how we use it. Deep reading, debate, and self-analysis strengthen neural pathways for critical thinking and creativity. Quick search habits, on the other hand, favor fast reaction circuits while allowing memory and reasoning networks to wither. Some researchers call this reverse adaptation, meaning the brain evolves toward efficiency at the cost of independence. Consider Emma, a law student in Boston. She reads dozens of legal documents each week yet struggles to recall key details after only a few days. Analyzing her study routine revealed that she relied almost entirely on AI to summarize and highlight, rarely writing or organizing information herself. Her brain simply wasn't getting the workout needed to reinforce new connections. The good news is that neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to create and strengthen pathways, remains throughout life. Just as muscles can regain strength through training, the brain can recover if challenged correctly. The key is to treat AI as a collaborator, not a replacement. Ask AI for an outline but write the content yourself. Read an AI-generated summary. Then question the details and verify sources. Each step forces the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex to stay active, reinforcing memory and reasoning. AI's impact is gradual, like water slowly wearing down stone. Every decision we hand over to a machine is a missed opportunity to exercise our own mind. Over time, the brain learns that deep reasoning is unnecessary and reshapes itself to match that lifestyle. Understanding this mechanism is the first step to using AI wisely, leveraging its benefits while preserving the creativity and autonomy that make us human. Once we understand how the brain works and how artificial intelligence, AI, can interfere with information processing, the long-term consequences of over-reliance become clearer. The effect of AI is not like a sudden storm but more like a slow drip of water wearing down stone. At first, the changes are almost imperceptible, but over time the small impacts accumulate, gradually weakening focus and memory. Constantly offloading information to AI reduces activation of the hippocampus, the region responsible for consolidating memories. A 2022 Nature Neuroscience study showed that when hippocampal circuits are rarely engaged, their synaptic connections weaken much like muscles that go unused. As a result, people find it harder to retain complex information and feel less confident when presenting or making decisions without digital support. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex, which governs reasoning and problem-solving, receives fewer challenges. Relying on ready-made answers dampens its activation, slowing mental reflexes and eroding patience for open-ended questions. Many notice greater difficulty breaking down complex situations or staying motivated when faced with problems that lack immediate solutions. These changes also affect emotion and mental health. Research from the American Psychological Association, 2023, links heavy technology use with higher rates of anxiety, depression, and disorientation. When the brain becomes accustomed to instant rewards, quick answers, and polished suggestions, it tolerates delays and real-world setbacks less, weakening resilience and long-term motivation. In education and the workplace, such habits can quietly reduce personal value. As AI surpasses humans in retrieving facts or drafting text, advantage will no longer come from knowing more or typing faster, but from analysis, creativity, and sound judgment, skills machines still struggle to replicate. Those who depend too heavily on AI risk losing their competitive edge. If this pattern spreads across society, the consequences grow larger. When millions abandon deep thinking, collective creativity declines. Decisions guided too heavily by average machine suggestions leave fewer breakthrough ideas, those born of patient human reflection, slowing scientific and cultural progress. The good news is that the brain is remarkably resilient. Recognizing the risk allows us to act. Let AI handle repetitive searches or first draft ideas. But reserve analysis, evaluation, and final conclusions for ourselves. Outside work and study, reading long books, playing instruments, exercising, or engaging in live debates all force the brain to process complexity and respond dynamically, natural training grounds for cognitive endurance. History shows similar turning points. Literacy once set people apart, then internet skills, and now the ability to leverage AI. With every new tool, the bar for uniquely human value rises. To stay relevant, we must continually strengthen our thinking abilities, not merely learn to operate the next machine. As we grow accustomed to letting machines handle almost everything, the human brain quietly develops a new habit, over-delegation. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in gradually, much like the way we once learned to rely on GPS instead of memorizing streets, or on phone calendars instead of recalling tasks ourselves. But in the age of artificial intelligence, the depth of delegation is far greater. What began with calculators and reminders now extends to planning, analysis, and even decision-making. Scientists refer to this as cognitive offloading, the tendency of the brain to conserve energy by outsourcing demanding tasks to external tools. A study from the University of Toronto found that people who routinely depend on smart devices to solve problems show lower hippocampal activity than those who reason on their own. The hippocampus forms and strengthens memories, so reduced engagement is like leaving key mental muscles underworked. Consider the first time you used a translation app. At first you double-checked each phrase, trying to guess meanings yourself. Within weeks, you probably stopped that process, simply tapping a button for an instant answer. Your language memory didn't vanish overnight, but the brain began taking shortcuts, dialing down the neural connections that once supported deeper reasoning. Now that AI can draft essays, create schedules, and propose solutions, the incentive for the brain to take a break grows even stronger. The impact goes beyond remembering facts. A Nature human behavior experiment showed that when participants were offered AI-generated answers, they accepted them more quickly and questioned them less than those who searched independently. In other words, when machines act as information gatekeepers, we gradually reduce the habit of self-checking, a cornerstone of independent thinking. Of course, cognitive offloading isn't entirely negative. It can free up mental bandwidth for more creative tasks. A physician, for example, might use AI to process patient data rapidly and focus on diagnosing complex cases. The risk emerges when delegation becomes the default, robbing people of the chance to practice judgment and making them dependent on algorithms they don't fully understand. Another subtle trap is the Google effect, the illusion of intelligence that comes from instant access to information. Quick answers can create a sense of mastery even when the knowledge remains outside the brain. This misplaced confidence can lead to poor decisions in areas where independent evaluation is critical, such as financial investments or interpreting medical advice. To keep AI as a partner rather than a replacement, researchers recommend a simple principle: let AI suggest, but do not let it decide. Treat its output as a starting point. Then verify, challenge, and refine it yourself. If AI drafts a work plan, use it as a framework but adapt it with your own priorities and reasoning. Each such step forces the brain to stay active, maintaining the neural networks that underlie analysis and creativity. Ultimately, the key question is not, what can AI do for us, but how far should we let AI go? Every task we hand over is a small test of agency. Draw the line wisely, and AI becomes a powerful collaborator that strengthens the mind. Cross it blindly, and we risk turning into passive consumers of information, ceding the very capacity for thought that defines human intelligence. As the habit of delegation becomes more common, its impact extends beyond short-term memory or analytical skills. Over time, neuroscientists have warned that heavy reliance on smart tools can subtly alter brain function. The hippocampus, a key region for memory formation and spatial navigation, can show reduced activation when it is not regularly engaged, similar to a muscle that weakens without exercise. This doesn't mean instant damage, but it does suggest that long-term memory and cognitive flexibility may decline if the brain is rarely challenged. Research from the Oxford Centre for Human Brain Activity indicates that individuals who frequently outsource problem solving to external aids tend to show lower neural connectivity compared to those who think independently. The brain functions like a complex transportation network when certain routes are underused. They degrade, and the flow of information slows. This may explain why many people experience reduced focus and mental fatigue after extended dependence on smart devices. These effects are not limited to individuals. On a societal scale, when large groups rely on AI-generated suggestions, opinions can become increasingly uniform. Diversity of thought, the engine of creativity and innovation, risks being replaced by algorithmically filtered perspectives. Without conscious awareness, we may enter an era where convenience quietly undermines the ability to question and critique. To protect cognitive health, scientists recommend actively engaging in tasks that stimulate independent thinking. This does not mean rejecting technology but rather asking questions and forming your own hypotheses before turning to AI. For example, when writing a report, draft your main arguments first. Then use AI to check or expand your ideas. This approach forces the brain to organize information and strengthens neural pathways. Intentional memory and attention training is equally important. Activities such as handwriting, learning a new language, playing a musical instrument, or solving puzzles have been shown to enhance neural connectivity and preserve cognitive flexibility. Even small practices, like memorizing directions or performing mental calculations, serve as natural workouts for the brain. Creating healthy technology boundaries also plays a critical role. Instead of letting AI constantly push content, limit notifications and actively choose when and how to consume information. A Stanford University study found that participants who reduced daily smart device use by just 20% showed significant improvements in concentration and recall after only a few weeks. Perhaps most importantly, we need to change how we view AI. Rather than treating it as a replacement for thinking, treat it as a learning partner. Each time you use AI, ask it to explain its reasoning, challenge its sources, and compare with other data. This practice not only leverages AI's power but also preserves the independent critical thinking that no algorithm can replicate. Finally, remember that the human brain is remarkably adaptable. Even after periods of heavy reliance on AI, cognitive function can recover with proper training. Reading, live discussions, acquiring new skills, or engaging in deep conversations all help reactivate the neural networks responsible for memory and complex reasoning. These habits safeguard not just memory but also the creativity and identity that define human intelligence. If we treat AI as a tool, we remain in control, but if we lean on it as a crutch for every decision, we risk surrendering our greatest strength, independent thought. Technology is meaningful only when it enriches human intelligence, not when it replaces it. The final choice, ultimately, lies in our own hands. As we conclude this exploration of how artificial intelligence influences the human brain, the picture becomes clearer. Technology offers tremendous opportunities but also quiet challenges. AI can save time, expand knowledge, and connect us to the world faster than ever. Yet the very convenience that empowers us also tests our ability to preserve our intellectual independence. We live in an age where every question can be answered with a single click. But the deeper question is whether we still maintain the habit of asking and answering for ourselves. The human brain is built to learn through effort. Every time we analyze, connect ideas, and draw conclusions, our neural networks activate and grow stronger. Skipping this process, even for the sake of speed, deprives the brain of critical exercise. It's like skipping daily workouts. The decline is invisible at first, but over time strength and flexibility fade. Keeping the brain engaged is the only way to protect memory, creativity, and sound decision-making, the very qualities that define us as humans. The encouraging truth is that control remains entirely in our hands. Technology does not dictate dependency, the way we use it does. You can choose to let AI spark an idea and then refine it yourself. You can research a topic before consulting AI, or treat its answers as a starting point for deeper questioning. Each small choice, repeated day after day, forms a shield that protects the mind from intellectual complacency. Remember, AI is a tool, not a replacement for human intelligence. A powerful tool can elevate your abilities, but it can also weaken them if you hand over every decision. Think of GPS navigation. It helps you reach your destination faster. But if you rely on it too much, you gradually lose your own sense of direction. AI works the same way. It can help you learn faster. But only if you continue to verify, analyze, and think critically will you truly become smarter. The key takeaway is simple yet vital. Use AI to extend your mind, not to replace it. Give your brain time to solve problems, recall information, and create ideas on its own. Read a book without skimming a summary. Take handwritten notes instead of copying. Or simply pause to think before asking a machine. These small, deliberate acts are the foundation for lasting mental strength. If we strike the right balance, the age of AI can become a golden era of human development. We will not only access information faster but also grow deeper, more creative, and more resilient in a rapidly changing world. Technology can transform everything around us, but the will to learn and the capacity for independent thought remain the true sources of human power, and no algorithm can replace them.